Welcome back. I'm Curtis Smith. This time at the end of August, things are beginning to cool off in some parts of New Mexico. And we're in Gallup today with Sid Gilson, who's a gardener here. And Sid, you've got a good crop of tomatoes here.
Thank you, Curtis. Tomatoes grow real good in the fresh rain, and we've had a lot of rain. And as you can see, they just get profuse and start putting on a lot of new flowers. But that interferes with the maturation of a few little green tomatoes. We're kind of slow here in terms of our tomatoes coming out, and they're not ripe yet.
Yeah, you had a frost in June, so you didn't start till June.
That's right. We didn't plant these until the first week in June.
So these are just barely getting going, but you've got to get these matured now.
Right, and I've got to get that fruit red. So what we do is we pinch back the tomato plant. And as you can see an example right here, this growth is coming up. We're not going to get any tomatoes out of that. So what we do is we pinch that off and throw it away. And then we go through and do this. Here's another one. Pinch it off and throw it away.
So you're forcing all the food produced in these leaves to go into the fruit.
Right. We don't want to cut off the leaves if we can, just the flowers and the new growth that comes up. Cut it off, and then it keeps the plant lush with a lot of leaves. And I've heard some people say they take a trimmer and cut it. Don't do that, because we want to save the leaves, but cut off the new growth, because that's not going to do anything for our tomatoes.
Selectively pinch it. And you're already getting down around 40 or into the 40s.
The high 40s into 49, and once in a while we'll get a real quick drop. So we want to get these tomatoes matured as quickly as we can.
And you said you'll even come out and cover these some.
Yes, with the barrels to absorb the heat, the warm barrels and the water. I'll cover it with a tarp if we get an early frost, and that'll keep it. Sometimes we can keep our tomatoes going here into the middle of October, even though the middle of September is when we have our first hard frosts.
Okay, and I noticed this pinching you also do with your squash plant over here.
Yes, it's the same principle, same idea.
Let's go take a look at that too then.
Very good.
Sid, I noticed you've got the squash here, and you said this is another one that you need to pinch. But before we do that, I noticed on a trellis.
Yes, we have the cattle panel that you buy at the local feed and seed store. It's a nice rigid, it holds up well, it holds up the squash and does a real nice job.
Helps prevent squash bug problems.
Yes, the squash bugs have to travel all the way up, and it keeps them back too.
They like to stay near the ground. But the real thing for this time of the year is the pinching to encourage the development of these small fruits, get them to mature.
We have some small fruits, so what I do every day is go through and find areas that of growth that need to be cut back. And as you can see, here is a new bloom. Now we'll just pinch that back. That's not going to develop into fruit. Here's another example of a lemon cucumber that's growing here also. We'll pinch that back also and take that out. And here's another male flower of the squash. This male flower is not going to serve any purpose, so we'll pinch that back too and take that out. And then this gives a chance for the squash to mature, and you see we'll have some good squash this year.
It's looking good already. I see the colors are changing. I understand you've got another squash situation we ought to look at too, something people need to be doing right now.
Right, we've got a bush squash that's closer to the ground, and let's see what the squash bugs do over there.
Okay. Well, so this is a bush squash instead of a running squash.
Yes, it is. I tried this new this year because it's hopefully a little less work, and it matures much faster than the other butternut.
That helps in this short season.
Yes.
It looks like you've got some pretty good squash developing here.
Yes, we've got some nice little squash, and they're doing quite well, and I think we'll get some good fruit out of them also.
Okay, and I notice you've got squash bug eggs here.
There they are. There they are. There's the squash bug eggs, and those things just develop into baby squash bugs. So we just pull them out or squish them up so that they don't get in our way.
So you have a problem with that. Looks like this leaf's affected. I bet if we turn it over, we'll find some squash bugs there. And they've been running. I think
the leaf is wilted, which indicates that might be the case. Here's another wilted leaf. Let's take a look and see what's under that.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, that's our problem right there. And what we do with these is we just take and pull that leaf off and put that there, and that's why they call them squash bugs. So we just squash those bugs up, and that takes care of them and keeps them out of our squash.
So you turn squash bugs into squashed bugs.
That's
past tense.
right.
And that's important because they can do some damage. But you've told me you don't really have a major problem with butternut squash with squash bugs. They seem to resist even though they're here.
Yes, they do. And I've tried all kinds of different kinds of squash, and butternut is the best variety.
Okay, and you still do some pinching on these plants?
Yes, some of these plants, these flowers, again, we've got some nice fruit coming, so we don't need all these male flowers. And the nice thing about the squash plant, bush plant, it doesn't send out a lot of runners, so we don't have to do a lot of that trimming.
Okay, well, Sid, this is an interesting garden, and we'll come back and see the whole garden in a few minutes. But thank you for showing what should be done in northern and cooler parts of New Mexico at this time of the year.
Well, you're welcome.